Hey everyone, and welcome back to the EdgeVerse Techcast. This is the place that you keep coming to learn more and more about NXP software, tools, and enablement. All of this is to help you get started with NXP processors and microcontrollers. I'm one of your co-hosts, Kyle Dando, and today we're going to introduce all of you to a recently released configuration tool. Some of you may not be familiar with it, and we want to make sure that everybody knows about these great new tools that NXP is producing.
You're talking about the System Manager tool, right, Kyle?
Yeah.
Well, this is Bridgette Stone, your other co-host. Sounds like this is a great episode to keep our listeners up to date with the latest tools from NXP. To help us introduce this new tool, we have Lukas Heczko joining us. He's the product manager. Thanks for taking time, Lukas.
Hi, Bridgette. Hi, Kyle. Thank you for your invitation. Maybe to introduce myself to the listeners, my name is Lukas Heczko, and I live and work in Brno, a beautiful city located in Czech Republic. I have worked for NXP for almost 17 years. I started my career as a developer enabling 16-bit digital signal controllers in a predecessor of today's configuration tools called Processor Expert. Since then, I have held various development and management roles. Since year 2017, I led Espresso configuration tools enablement team. Most recently, I took over management of the whole Espresso config tools team and product. And today, I would like to introduce to you and your listeners the recently released System Manager configuration tool.
Well, Lukas, we really appreciate you joining us. The name by itself, System Manager, feels a little mysterious. Can you start with the basics? What exactly is the System Manager tool?
Yes, indeed. Maybe let me start with an explanation of what System Manager firmware is. The primary purpose of the System Manager is to allow isolation between software running on different cores on the modern application multicore processors that NXP offers. It is an application designed to run on a dedicated system control processor, typically a Cortex-M core, within NXP's i.MX 9 processor family. It plays a critical role in system initialization and resource management. The System Manager is loaded during system boot, configures hardware isolation mechanisms, and starts other cores in the system. After initialization, System Manager controls access to critical system resources, such as clocking, power, pin control, or even external peripherals present on the hardware board via a client remote procedure calls, API, based on the standardized ARM System Control and Management Interface, the SCMI. This allows the System Manager to provide access control, arbitration, and aggregation policies for these shared critical resources. It also responds to system events such as faults. And System Manager is also mandatory in case the application needs to be functional safety compliant.
So in a way, it's like the air traffic controller, making sure all the cores know where to go and not to crash into each other. And this is also a brand new tool, correct?
Yes, exactly. The System Manager configuration tool was released in September as part of our configuration tools for i.MX processors and provides a user-friendly graphical interface to help customers configure this firmware.
Okay, so you said that customers using NXP's i.MX 9 processors will need the System Manager firmware, but can you take a little bit more time to go into the tool itself? And what does it actually provide to the customers?
Yeah, okay. So to be specific, System Manager config tools allows users to partition SoC into so-called logical machines. For each logical machine, it's possible to configure its access policies to common hardware resources and set up a communication layer between the logical machines and the System Manager using the SCMI protocol. This way, you can ensure isolation between the applications running on various cores. To easily navigate through the System Manager settings, the tool contains System View, project navigation hierarchical tree, where you can see all configurable elements, such as the logical machines we just mentioned, but also other project, board, or debug-related settings. Another feature of the tool is the resource view that shows an overview of all resources and their assignments to resource owners. Using this view, a user can quickly search and filter the resources based on their type or owner. The third useful feature is the boot view, where a user can configure booting sequence and booting options of each logical machine. Based on the settings made by user in these views, the tool generates a set of configuration files used to customize and build the system manager firmware. Nice feature of the tool is that all the changes you made in the settings are immediately visible in the generated code. And finally, the tool also provides a powerful command line interface for integration with development frameworks like Yocto to build customized Linux distributions.
All right, Lukas, 17 years experience working on Processor Expert and other tools. The configuration tools, the feedback we've received from our customers is that visual ability to see what they're doing and making sure that when they're making all these complex changes, they can see it. That's what you're doing with this system manager. You're taking all the complexity of setting up the firmware and giving them something to visually see without having to become system manager experts and work directly in the code. They're working in these GUI interfaces. That's correct, right?
Yes, exactly.
So the system manager sounds super powerful, but also a little intimidating. So what problem does the tool really solve for developers? Why would it be wise for a customer consider using this new config tool?
Yeah, good question. Configuration of the system manager is a complex task, especially for customers that are new to this concept. The system manager configuration tool is here to help customers with the transition. Although it's possible to configure a system manager using special dedicated configuration files, you must be familiar with its syntax, list of the hardware resources available for your device, their identifiers and allowed values. This is time-consuming, error-prone, and may require several iterations to get the desired outcome. The System Manager configuration tool provides a graphical interface that helps you. You can easily add, remove, and configure logical machines and hardware resources, set up communication interfaces between the machines and System Manager, or configure debugging options. For each setting, the tool provides available values, and each change is immediately validated so that you get correct working configuration the first time. The goal is to provide customers with a visual aid tool that will help them with understanding and configuring the system manager. An additional advantage is that the system manager configuration tool is an integral part of the configuration tools for i.MX suite. It is complemented by the existing pins, clocks, or DDR memory validation tool, as well as the functional safety configuration components that can be used together with the system manager.
So Lukas, you mentioned that the tool is included in the i.MX config tools. So how would a customer get the system manager as part of the config tools they're using today? Is it just automatic?
Yep, the system manager tool is the default part of the config tools for i.MX from version 2509. The graphical interface, it's like any other config tools view found in, for example, pins or clocks tool. The only additional requirement is to download the System Manager firmware repository from NXP GitHub so that the tool can reference it.
Okay, I had that issue. So if I go to GitHub and download that firmware package, then the config tools I have installed, everything will just show up in my toolbox.
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent.
All right, Lukas, our TechCast episode is not going to provide enough time to help listeners fully understand the power of this new tool. How do you suggest users get more information and training?
We've published the training resources, product page, and documentation with examples on the NXP website. You will also find the firmware repository and source code on GitHub. Config tools itself includes sample configurations you can start with and then adjust for your own use case.
Perfect. Thanks, Lukas. Kyle and I will make sure to add those links into our episode notes.
So today, everyone, we learned that the System Manager is a new tool that is at the foundation of working with NXP i.MX 9 systems. It's a user interface that is easy to understand. It takes the complexity of all of the resources and setup in the System Manager and allows the user to see the changes they're making and create valid configurations. And this new configuration tool makes all of this super easy to get started.
That's right. Less time wrestling with config files, more time actually building your application. Lukas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and it was a pleasure. Thank you.
And to our listeners, check out the show notes. We dropped links in that Lukas provided so you can investigate some of the training and documentation.
Don't forget to follow the EdgeVerse Techcast so you never miss future episodes.
And until next time, keep building, keep creating, keep your configuration right, and we'll catch you on the next EdgeVerse Techcast.